right, ladies and germs, we're back today. Guess who we've got? We've got none other than Charlie Musser, friend of the show and anthropologist. How you doing today, Charlie?
I'm good. As long as I'm not being stung by a stingray, I'll be fine.
So we're telling a story. Apparently, Charlie is a big surfer, and he likes to go out and hit some tubular waves every now and again. Well, he went out, what was it, 10 years ago?
About 15 years ago, probably, yeah.
What happened out there on that fateful day?
Oh, forgot to do the stingray shuffle. Had stepped on a nice, what felt like a shard of glass, syringe going straight up into my foot, then caused blinding leg sharp pain for about 2 hours.
Whoa.
And then it feels lovely. I'm sure there's someone out there that would believe it's some kind of form of therapy, but no thanks.
Did you ever catch the bastard that did it?
No, he's swimming freely, probably assaulting former other people.
One day we got to have a, class action lawsuit against some of these wildlife, because tired of seeing
Stick
people.
them in the. That's what it needs. That's what they need. They'll never get out.
All my vegan listeners are totally appalled. So what's going on, Charlie? Obviously, you're coming from California. I'm here in Germany. What's in the news today? I know that I posted an article recently. It said China has just said that they want to, that they think there should be a ceasefire in Gaza, and that they also think, hey, Palestine should have its own, place. Its own state.
They want a two-party. Correct.
Right. And you were against that.
No, I'm not against that. Let's clarify everything. All I was saying is that China is just completely showing that they say these things, but then they go about and commit genocide themselves. And that's the problem that I have.
Yeah. And my contention was that there is a limited amount of evidence at this particular time, although there is evidence that it's not as well documented as, say, what's going on in Palestine to really warrant.
And that's the big ticket there, is because China is very, very clever in the way that they go about doing these things. So they do not, instead of bombing down cities by the dozen and just murdering people out in the open while people can film it, they do it secretly, and they don't allow journalists to get in there and show that these things are happening.
So you spent some time in Asia. What was that like?
So I lived a year in China. I was in Harbin, which is the home of the Manchus. Manchuria, former kingdom of Manchuria, was also the puppet state of the Japanese when they took over. It's been part of Russia. So it's way up, right next to Vladivostok, Russia. And then you have North Korea there, and then you have Mongolia on the other side. Mm. So right where the Trans-Siberian Railway comes through there into China.
Uh-huh. So what was it like?
Very cold. Very cold in the winter, so cold that they have internal coal heating that heats every house. So if you live in a giant, which like I lived in like a 4-story Soviet-looking concrete slab,
right,
that has an internal heating system that you can't turn it off though. So sometimes you're sitting there, it's 1,000 degrees in my fucking apartment, and it's negative 20 outside, and so you have to open the window, and your things are freezing, and but and so it causes a lovely amount of pollution too, because it's just big smokestacks of coal being pumped out all winter long. And so most of the times I'd go on my phone, I would look up, what's the weather like today? Is it sunny? Most of the time it would just say smoke. Like, oh, good. It's another smoke today.
Smoky with a chance of meatballs. Yeah. I don't. I don't know, man. It seems. Do you think it's efficient the way that they run the thing, like to heat the entire block
Well,
like that?
I don't know because I don't know how much it's wasted. Like you can't go in there and see it. Like it's in a locked location where you can't go in and see what's happening.
Yeah.
And maybe it's probably wasn't just my building. It was probably the surrounding neighborhood. I think is in one central smokestack area, which
Yeah.
there's probably a lot of wasted stuff going on, especially when they crank it out so much, and then you're like, it's too hot, like the face melting off.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, look, it was the cold part of China. You're at the very top where I'm sure it snows. This was famously, yeah, the place where Russia always wanted to invade, and the Japanese did invade, and they're like, so
It was where the Japanese had their experiments that they did during World War II, and the Chinese.
Oh, tell us about that.
Oh, so we all know about. Hopefully, we all know and believe that Germany committed an atrocity, genocide. The Japanese were doing.
We all believe.
Have
Yes.
you ever met a Holocaust denier?
Yeah, I have.
Oh.
I have.
I met one in a jazz bar in Guatemala. It was the most random. Like we're just having a good time talking about jazz, and then all of a sudden, yeah, and like the Holocaust didn't happen. What?
Guatemalan guy, or
No, he was a United States expat.
oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Lived in Guatemala. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
And I just go. Oh, that's all fabricated.
yeah.
Okay, goodbye. I'll go to the next jazz bar.
I love jazz, and I hate the Jews. Jesus Christ, man, settle down.
Straight out of center field too. Just
It's a little offsetting when people that are into culture or something nice and like soft and sensitive and like artistic, they're like, and I also hate, women.
Yeah.
I'm like, jeez.
Classical music and
So
child inside.
tell me about these experiments. So what happened with the experiments?
Oh God! So the Japanese were conducting all kinds of experiments, drilling holes in people's heads, taking out people's organs, seeing how long they lived for, exposing them to poisonous gases. Similar things that the Nazis did.
Sounds like
this was all
like a
happening
typical Finnish
in
spa.
Harbin. Just get my arm decapitated and see how long it takes me to bleed out, and then maybe they'll attach a goat to my face. Doing really fucked up shit like that. There is actually, it wasn't in the province where I was living. It was in the province just to the south, which is where the puppet emperor's mansion was, who was placed in charge of the puppet government that the Japanese had in place. And there that they have, the Chinese, they call it the Anti-Japanese Museum. If you can't get any more clear on what their point of the museum is.
Isn't there...
So you can go around and see like a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of setup of people having their heads impaled on stakes and
fun for the whole family, yeah.
Very much so. Bring grandma.
I mean, was this in a time? I mean, look, it's true that the frontal lobotomy, this idea of drilling a hole into somebody's head, actually won the Nobel Peace Prize in its time. I mean, was this during that era where it was like, hey, man, we're just trying to figure out how it works. We're just going to poke a hole in you and see.
I mean, I guess it was at the same time because that was the era when they were doing all these discoveries, right?
Well, yeah.
Just kind of,
But
discoveries.
But I mean, your time in China, though, wasn't totally saturated in misery or anything. Did you have a good time?
No. Well, I had a great time. I had a band. That was fun. I had a band.
Wait a minute. I thought you couldn't express yourself in China.
As just don't sing about Xi Jinping.
Okay.
You can sing about. I mean, if you're singing in English, most people aren't going to know what the hell you're saying anyway. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Because where I was, it's very uncommon. People had never seen foreigners there most of the time.
Cool.
And if they are, you'd be Russian. So most people would come up and try to talk to me in Russian. But people would also, they don't see facial hair. People would literally stop in the street and try to like grab my beard. I'll never forget one day just walking down the street and this little girl stopped mid intersection and just went and stared at me as if I was an alien. So yeah. it's a culture that makes you feel. The word for foreigner is literally translated to old outsider, and people will just point at you and go, "La wai, la wai, la wai, foreigner," and then you'll just be like, "Hi, how you doing?" Like, "La wai," like.
But was it? There should be some people. I mean, this is universal across the world that some people are just warm and inviting. And did you have lots of, down home Chinese cooking out on the Manchurian plain?
So good. So since it's so cold, I really like this in the wintertime. They'll lay out the like green onions and leeks and those kind of things, and they'll lay them out to dry, and then they'll let them ferment, and then in the spring and the summer, then they'll take them out when they're ready, and they have these dishes that they use with them. Lots of silkworm. They eat silkworms there, which I thought had the flavor of cilantro enchiladas a little bit. But I'm not too fond of the chewing. You have to break the shell open.
Very good.
Had a lot of good. They love to drink there. Their baijiu which tastes like straight up nail polish, and you can literally feel your brain cells popping the next day.
Baijiu?
Baijiu, yeah.
What is it?
A lot of times, so it's a grain alcohol, I want to say. What is it? Baijiu is clear liquid, usually distilled from fermented sorghum and other grains.
Okay.
And it's kind of sweet, but it's like 50%, and so it just fucks you up.
Wow. I mean, in every culture, they got a way to cut the pressure.
Exactly. And some of my favorite times are because you can sit outside and they sell the Harbin beers, which are these big 22s. They're only about 3%. You kind of sit on little milk crates, and then you go to the barbecues. And then they'll just keep bringing you beers, and everyone's just in the middle of the street getting loaded. And then they do the Beijing bikini, this one where everyone pulls up their shirt like this, kind of lets it hang out. Yeah. The Harbin t-shirt.
That's cool. I mean, is there a difference?
That's a good time.
Was it different? The culture, obviously, there's different ethnicities and stuff. Is it different up there compared to somewhere down south in China?
The thing about China and ethnicity, a lot of sadly, it's been kind of moved around. And the Han Chinese are the majority everywhere. So you don't see an overwhelming amount of like minority people out in the open, but you find pockets, and up there, Manchurians, you'll find there's the Inner Mongolians are nearby there. And I want to say that there's 55 different ethnicities within China.
And that sounds about right.
Yeah. And I didn't get to travel around as much. I mean, it's an entirely huge country. And so I know in the South, there's a lot of different.
Did you have any idea about the differences right off as far as whatever living standards or the way that things operate or the culture or that? What were the pros and cons versus, Western? You grew up in America. You're a California boy. What's the big differences? Are there things that China's doing that maybe we should think about or?
Well, of course, number one, you should always say a healthcare system where everyone can go get healthcare.
Now, is that true?
Now, you can go get it, but whether it's going to be good or whether they're even going to do anything, now that's a matter of opinion.
Okay.
And I don't know, because I'm different. I'm a foreigner, so I get treated differently.
Yeah.
And everyone else, but I've heard from people, oh, well, if you actually want to get seen or cured, you probably have to pay more money to this doctor.
Interesting. So a bribe system.
Yeah. Right. It's all under the table, though, because it's all supposed to be out there. You know,
Sure.
government's providing.
Yeah. But
one thing I noticed, the work days. So I find this interesting. So let me ask you, what would you think of this? Would you like to work 14 hours, but during many of those hours, you can just be lounging asleep in your police car or your ambulance or wherever you might be, but you got to work 14 hours, 6 to 7 days a week.
Or what? I thought you were giving me an ultimatum.
Or would you like the 5-day work week, 9 to 5?
So 14
of the
hours,
United States.
14 hours a day, and you're sleeping in your car.
Sometimes you get a lot of downtime.
What? Well, there's got to be some benefit on top of that. Can I take a break anytime I want?
No, I think you're taking your break kind of
Well,
just on your own time.
I would think it depends on the job, doesn't it?
When you're sleeping.
Yeah.
When you're sleeping.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so funny. Like, people are like on a construction site, but then like there's a couple guys like passed out on a concrete slab. And so I never was really sure, like, where
Eat when you're hungry, drink when you're dry, sleep when you're tired, man. And
your time and labor. I guess it's there are different ways to look at it, I suppose. I mean, I don't want to give my labor to either of them. So
you wouldn't want to drive your labor into, if he's tired, let him rest. But as long as things are getting done, which I guess, did you get the impression that things were getting done in China, like that things worked to some degree, or was it too bureaucratic? And
that's what I noticed, is that it would get done if the person who's benefiting from it wanted it to get done.
Ooh.
And if things were put into motion. But if not, then nothing gets done whatsoever, and things can just stall. And it's like you're talking to a brick wall. Like, I remember going to the grocery store, and the grocery store is one of the most stressful places in China for me because nobody waits in line. So you have to be already aggressive, like punching grandmas out of the way just to be able to pay for your food. And then you get up there and this shrimp, it doesn't have a price tag on it. I'm like, well, there's no price tag. Sorry, I need it. It's the only one left. Like, oh no, you have to go exchange it, but there's none left. Oh, but you have to go exchange it. But there's none, and you could just over and over, and there's no like, here, let me just ring that up for you. Here, like, no, it's just, we'll just go around in this loop until the end of time.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
That's what frustrated me so much. I don't know. It's a good question. Chinese culture to me is really fascinating because there is so much warmth and there's so much joy in a lot of things, but when it's involved in any kind of not personal, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it's not just between you and me, when the grocery store is involved or some other person is involved, it just becomes this convoluted mess always.
Well, I guess it's the DMV theory, that any publicly run institution is just going to eventually have people working there that are so disaffected and so evil and bored and miserable that your entire government becomes the DMV. And that's sort of what I hear, about communism in general.
And people aren't getting high wages. I know, like, the school that I work, because I was a teacher, I was getting paid way more than the female Chinese teachers that I worked with, who worked harder and longer hours than me. But that was, for them, that was a good job, despite them getting bullshit wages.
Well, what about property ownership? What do we know about how much was it for rent? How much is it to buy a house? What is the general ease? Did you see homeless people?
You don't see many homeless people, but you just see shanty houses in certain areas, certain neighborhoods you go to. They bombed out, looking like, almost unlivable shacks in some places.
Yeah. Well, as long as that's their zone, and that, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
But this is what, in a country that's supposed to be communist, it's not, because it's all petty capitalism, and there are still landlords. Yeah. And people are still paying rent.
Well, would you argue that old school capitalism is better? Like, totally, I don't know what kind of communism you'd like. I mean, there's all kinds of flavors, but the one where
real communism, wouldn't you be given a house?
Yeah, with real communism, everybody would have the exact amount of everything that they needed, with no variation in between.
And that's definitely what's going on in China.
No, and I don't know for sure if that would work anyway, because the incentive to work and blah, 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 and other factors and stuff like that. It's a great idea. I like it more than what we have in America, but it's not quite the thing. And I think it's fascinating. Cuba and China and all got a good idea, just can't make a run of it. And I suspect it is human nature. Can't do it. Too stupid, too slow, too greedy, I want to just fuck. I just want to fucking eat fried chicken. I don't want to do any work. That's deep within the heart of every human being. Beats a heart of a...
There's just a lot of corruption. And when you stop allowing people to function, for instance, to practice their religion, to grow their beard a certain length, I think that's not... How is that going to improve your society and get anyone to follow you? Yeah. Except by force.
Yeah.
And that's what I see in China, is that everything is forced. The propaganda machine is so strong, it's terrifying. I mean, you've heard of the Chinese firewall, right?
Sure. Well, explain it. Yeah. It's the internet wall that separates every access outside communication.
Yeah, you can't access YouTube. You can't access Facebook. You can't access social media. Type of things.
Sure.
Everyone still uses a VPN, though, which is an open secret in most places.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
why have it at all then?
Yeah. What organized society throughout history has not tried to control the means of communication? I mean, not that I'm downplaying what they do or anything, but I think that it'll happen in the past. It's going to happen in the future. Any attempt to organize society, you're going to have these people needing to control. This is the difference, Charlie, between morality and running a nation. I know I sent you this thing. I said, Kissinger said, it doesn't matter about ethics or morals when you're talking about, I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that, America's number one. And for people like us who live in an ethical world.
The world.
What's that?
Which is why I just hate everything and am miserable about and hopeless about life in general. That's the key cog to it.
All right. I didn't think we would get, I knew this wasn't a debate. I know we were on the same page. Yeah. It's bad.
All I see, I just don't want misery to happen.
Right.
And I think everything would work a lot better if people were not subjected to misery and murder and forced disappearance and surveillance.
Okay, well, are you ready?
In almost every country on earth is what I mean.
And are you ready to get thrown under the bus with the next question I have.
Throw me under. My back's already broken anyway.
If you want to alleviate misery and suffering in the world, are you vegan?
No.
There you go. For all those people out there that, you want black rights, but you hate women, or you need trans rights, but hate old people or whatever. It's all encompassing, this fight against injustice and misery and having empathy within the world and planning a world that could be better, void of violence, a communist utopia that's techno-fueled and blah, 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 blah. You have to think all encompassing about alleviating suffering. And so I'll tell you right now, Charlie, you should go vegan.
Okay. Should everyone on Earth go vegan?
There are individual variabilities within nutritional specifications for people, right? Everybody needs a little something different than everybody else. Well, I can't have peanut butter. Well, I can have tofu, but I can't have peanut butter. Doesn't matter. Most people will be able to go vegan, and the ones that can't, we'll get you a little. You can murder your own animals and you can eat them, whatever. Fine, but
how about for like the Inupiaq whale hunt? The yearly whale hunt for the Alaska.
I think in the terms when you talk about 70% of the wildlife has disappeared in the world since 1900. About we've lost all of our biodiversity. I think even trying to respect indigenous people and Inuits and stuff like this, it's time to move on from that system. Like, you don't necessarily have to kill a beluga whale. So you're talking about necessity when people like that had to kill out of necessity. Now that's a conservative thing. Conservatives want to conserve old ideals even though they're outdated in the modern world. That's even though they're indigenous and they're.
Well, let me just explain what I mean. So there's a few towns, cities, however you call them, up there on the North Slope that depend on the yearly whale hunt to feed not just their families, but to feed the whole town. And I was actually part of a study that saw that it gets sent to relatives in different states beyond Alaska. And it's a point, and the chief, or the whaleboat captain, I mean, not the chief. The whaleboat captain has a freezer in the bottom of his house where he keeps the whale meat. And when people are in a time of need, when they're starving, that's what it's reserved for and given out to people. Yeah. Now, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could turn that and say, well, if they just could have this, but it's a point of reality, and that's what
we're talking about. An insignificant.
Orange juice is $10 there.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're talking about an insignificant in terms of the total size of the population of Earth. So it's fine. Really, their population will stay within bounds too, because they won't be, if they're dependent on a food source that they have to, that it maybe is waning. They're never going to grow too big. I think what we have now in the a little bit further south in this belt around the Earth, then you have people who are overpopulated, eating unnaturally already, who could benefit from a vegan diet right there, and they're the majority of people. Well, the majority of people are down here. The Inuits, yeah, they want to eat. People from Western Africa, most of Africa is already vegan. There are 1.5 billion vegetarians in the world, and most of them are in India. So the idea that vegan is crazy or something, it's already happening. Most people subsist on beans and rice and have for millennia, whether it's Asians and their soybeans and stuff and their protein and they get from tofu and all that, or lentils in India, or frijoles in good old Mexico, So, but if you have a suggestion or a question or an argument against veganism right now, I'd love to hear it, because the Inuits, okay, fine, let them eat whales. What else you got?
Okay. I'm just talking about, in general, anyone that subsists on wild game to live.
Well, 4% of the United States.
A lot more, not as common, not nearly as common as it was even 50 years ago.
No, not at all. 4% of people in the United States hunt their own meat. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty small amount. Deer hunters.
It's a small amount. It's definitely a small amount. I mean, I'm not against anyone being vegan. I try to eat vegan as much as I can. Nah. What would you like me to?
What do you think vegan entails? What does it mean to you? What's the definition?
Well, I would say that it encompasses shutting down the entire animal food industry.
Veganism is trying to not exploit animals in any way and not use their products because that's their shit, not steal it from them or whatever, basically. Not that you could be perfect at it, and that's sort of specified that there are instances where you can't even help it. There are gelatin in vaccines. There are animal parts in the screens in computers. Like, it's pretty pervasive.
Really?
Yeah,
yeah.
So it's actually super impossible to be the perfect vegan. And so I argue mostly against the dogma of trying to stick to it in this religious way where you chastise others and crucify them and everything like that. But I think it's one of the easiest things I ever did, and I feel so stupid for not doing it earlier because it's not hurting another animal is totally possible. Like, we're omnivores by nature, and we have the ability to choose because we're conscious and upright walking and very intelligent, or so we think, that we can go into the grocery store and choose what we want to eat. And we still choose murder over getting our protein and amino acids from somewhere else, like beans. And so the kicker here, though, is, Charlie, check this out, that 75% of the soybeans grown in the United States aren't for hippies and vegans eating tofu. They're for livestock feed. And so we're using up great swaths of land to grow animal food, basically, instead of cutting out the middleman and just eating the stuff ourselves.
And the cow farts are bad for the air.
That's true, too. Then you have also the fact that beans, check this out, beans have a magical fucking job in this in symbiotic nature. I'm telling you, the song is true. They have a relationship between the soil and the microbes in the soil where they actually take nitrogen from the air and bring it down to the roots and feed the bacteria that's in the roots. They fix nitrogen in the soil.
And here's where I think the point should be made that everyone, which is, I guess, a road to veganism in some way, every food source, every type of food harvesting, it needs to be tied in with the nature of the land. You shouldn't be growing things where they're not native to that area.
Sure, absolutely.
Where it's not, where it's becoming invasive species.
Yeah.
And if people could, I mean, I don't expect everyone's going to be out harvesting fruit and berries, but I mean, I feel like you really should be. It's a connection to the land. It's where you are, and that will always be.
I saw a funny thing. It was a town hall meeting where somebody was like, we want to plant in the city. We want to use our tax money. We want to get together. We want to do like plant fruit trees everywhere so that there's actually food growing. And it's like, oh man, fucking brilliant idea, right?
Isn't?
And then somebody.
What's the country that's?
I
think, where was it?
I'll look this up.
Is it Norway or something? They're doing it, and anyone can go like, oh, you need a lemon? Here you go. Yeah. I heard about that not too long ago.
Sounds like communism, dude.
But yeah, fucking commies.
Like public food. I don't know how to say it. What would I say? Like what country is growing wild public food for everyone to eat and pick off the tree? At this town hall meeting, they go, we're going to do all this stuff. We're going to have all these fruit trees. And somebody goes, well, everybody's just going to steal the food. It's like, yeah, it's like the wrong mentality, isn't it?
Well, and that's the problem you're going to get with anything, because I guess everyone's always going to be fighting over everything, and it leads back to why just the world is hopeless and terrible.
Well, that's it, Charlie. That's where we're at. Oh, and you'll love this. It's like there are people walking amongst us that look like us, but have no inner dialogue. They have no empathy. They're just sort of hollow vessels that just shuffle from place to place and sort of absorb stimuli. And
It's they live.
have you ever met one of these people?
I meet them every day. I think some of my neighbors might be them.
They bounce from
Your
place to
neighbors
place.
too.
Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere. It sounds so arrogant to say, but really, there's a frightening thing with human beings. I think when you're empathetic, the world's a scary place.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you realize that how we're all just so tender and we can be hurt so easily.
So even knowing that we're highly manipulatable, would you ever, having the opportunity to make tons of money, they say, oh, you just signed this paper and we're going to poison all these people in China or in Bangladesh, and it's going to be great and you're going to get really rich. Would you do it?
I couldn't do it. I can't do it. I can't sleep if I step on a snail outside half the time. Just, pushing a button. No, I can't do that.
Well, but you would.
I feel bad. I felt bad when I stole a piece of bread.
Oh, you did? Oh, I wouldn't feel bad for that. Stealing food shouldn't be a thing.
No, and dumpster food should not be guarded and made sure that people can't go through it.
I passed this law. I say, if you're hungry, you can steal as much as you can eat at one time, and that's okay. But you can't hoard food. You can't steal food. Go to the Safeway and steal all the bread and then hoard it and resell it or something.
And then the people manipulate it and become these big, giant, fat slugs. Like, I'm still hungry. I must continue feeding.
I mean, we're already there in human history, I think. We're gelatinous sort of creatures.
I want to be a gelatinous creature. I really don't.
No.
Makes me sad.
Well, go vegan. I mean, back to the whole vegan thing. You can't lose. I mean, they showed better metabolic outcomes. Here's the thing. Meat's got saturated fat. And if you eat saturated fat, it's at room temperature, it's solid. Well, what do you think it's doing in your veins and in your heart? Clogging it up, probably. Depending on some people got good genes, they can process that stuff. They're fit as a fiddle. They eat as much crap as they want. Yeah, but the tribe.
No, but you know what? You know what's hilarious? I just got to give my girlfriend some shit here. I'll be like, hey, let's go vegan for a week. And she'll be like, okay, sounds good. Next day she'll come home with bacon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, my heart needs a rest.
Oh man. Yeah. Do you usually you have?
I'm keel over one day.
Does she cook good at least, or do you cook?
Oh, we both do.
Yeah.
We both. You see, I'm actually a pescatarian when it's my choice.
You diddle kids.
Yeah.
Oh, pescatarian. No, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's when you eat fish.
Stupid.
It was like a joke. It's like somebody get the philanthropy and philanderer mixed up. That's a good one.
Phalanges?
Philanderer.
Philanderer.
Yeah. No, just jokes. Only jokes.
California law: if a fruit tree grows on or over public property, the fruit is no longer the sole property of the owner of the tree.
Really?
Which makes free food available year-round in LA. Apparently, that's what this thing that just pops up said. Oh. Free food in LA all over the place.
I like that. They had somewhere in the Bay Area I stayed, they had orange trees, yeah. I miss that. You're lucky you get to live in California, Charlie. You're an American through and through. Have you ever been to Europe?
I went to Europe once when I was 18. Just as soon as I graduated from high school, took a trip to Europe with like my mom, my sister's friend, my friend's mom. My cousin's sister's former roommate was there. Like, like.
How was it?
That was a good time. I was so young. Like, I hardly even knew myself then. So I need to go back and, experience it as an adult.
Yeah.
But I had a great time. I think it was the most eye-opening experience for me as an 18-year-old because I'd never traveled internationally before other than to Mexico. But
did you drink beer and everything, or you get to do?
I drank a little bit of beer. I wasn't drinking too much at the time, but here's another thing. Ooh, do you want to hear some dirty laundry, guys?
Hanging out on the line.
Went with my high school girlfriend, and she didn't like me drinking, so I listened to her, and I didn't drink much beer when I was there. And it made me sad afterwards. I'm like, I missed everything that I possibly could. Maybe it saved my life. Who knows? Maybe I would have ended up in an Austrian prison or something.
The only thing is just feeling missing out is the only thing you missed. You're your own worst enemy. You did it to yourself. Really, you could have had a great time without. It's not great.
I did have a great time. That's the thing. Yeah. That was the thing. I had a great time other than the fighting and the bickering with the high school people.
I mean, don't you go through relationships with people eventually? You get to you're 40 and then you go, you know what? I hate all these goddamn fucking people.
Or you love them. You just realize, oh, they're all so nice.
Yeah.
I've never said that in my life.
The moments of time that you can actually stand people get smaller and smaller. You're like, I could hang out with them for a few days. It's like maybe a few hours, and then pretty soon you're like, I'll call him once a year.
I barely go out anymore. I can't even, and then I'm stuck with myself. I can't even stand myself either. Yeah. So then I'm just like,
it's great.
I don't want to talk to anyone. Just close the window shades.
Pop into some podcasts and have some smart people tell you something about penguins or something. And just.
You see, penguin podcast is what we really need. I think you need to change your entire show now. Only penguins.
We could save the world with the penguin podcast.
Only penguins.
What are you going to talk about? Really, it's like, oh yeah, he's on his egg, he's rolling around. Oh,
well, you could, the emperor penguin. Oh, what other type of penguins are there?
There's the one that lives. There's the one that's in Brazil that keeps coming back every year to visit this like old home bum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Brazilian penguins, they're a different breed, man.
Yeah. They dance to the beat of a different drum, I think.
You and I were penguins in Antarctica to different drums.
I did a few shows on like raccoons, and like I wanted to get an armadillo expert on the show, and I wanted to get
I'm somewhat of a sloth if anything about sloths.
Okay, tell me.
I worked at a sloth rescue for a month in Costa Rica.
You worked at a slothery?
So basically they were sloths that had been injured and they were trying to be rehabilitated. So I had to go around with a giant lightning rod detector thing because
oh my god,
things around to see where they were to make sure they were still alive.
I thought you were going to say.
I have to go searching through the jungle looking for these sloths in the middle of the night.
I thought you were going to say, I went around with a big metal pole.
Biologist.
Oh yeah. So what's
just tased them.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, oh, it's a big metal pole. I'm gonna. Charlie, what the fuck is wrong with you? I tell him I'm vegan. He's like, yeah, I like to torture him.
No, we were helping him.
Yeah. No, I think my wife went to a similar place in Costa Rica where she also was hanging out with sloths for a minute, and she's now
probably the same
working on her She's going to be a scientist here any second here.
Oh, what kind of scientist?
Oh, working on organic agriculture, of course. Hippies.
That's a real science.
Yeah.
That's a real scientist. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Cool stuff, soil science. Yeah. No, but I had look.
Actually,
It is cool. I think it's cool. No, but I was going to tell you about this woman I had on. She had a you wouldn't believe this, and I always think, where is all this funding coming from? But she was doing a science experiment where she was playing music for orangutans and trying to see what kind of music they like. They played them smooth jazz. They played them rockabilly. They played them techno, drum and bass.
what do you like?
Every time
Undecided?
every time that they turned it on, the orangutan come up and turn it off.
Turn this shit off. I don't want to hear Hunt's music again.
Yeah, apparently orangutans just don't care for it at all. Yeah, so I think, and I posted.
Well, I wonder, like, how's their hearing? Like, I wonder if does it like blast their eardrums out, or
They should be sort of close to us, I guess, but I would think it's more brain processing. Like they can't process it in the brain area as much, and like didn't music progress slowly? Like wasn't it at first as just a few guys in a cave going and banging on it?
Or who are the the throat singers? Have you ever heard them?
Yeah,
They're so cool.
that's cool. I mean,
I saw this group of sisters perform it once. It's so awesome. Oh, I can't do it.
go ahead, give it another try.
I'm making a mockery of it. Just stop me right there.
That was enjoyable, though. Let me tell you. If you're just joining us, folks, we've got Charlie Musser in the studio. He is a throat singer, anthropologist, surfer, and Pogues fan, and musician.
I rest in peace, Shane McGowan.
Yeah, I saw Johnny Depp at the funeral.
He delivered kisses to hell, and then Banshee screamed his way.
I hope so. You like all that kind of old Irish music?
Who are they? The Dubliners?
Yeah, the Dubliners.
The Dublin
From the Emerald Isle.
The Chieftains?
Oh, the Chieftains. Aye, they were good.
But the Pogues, favorite band of all time.
Really?
Ramones, Pogues, up there. Yeah.
Yeah. It has that root in Irish folk music, like the Clancy Brothers go before that. 60s, you had the Clancy Brothers. Groovy stuff,
And then mixing it with the punk rock.
Yeah, that was important to sing like Shane McGowan.
Yeah.
Those teeth.
Pogue Mahone.
Now the Pogues are legendary.
I'm working on my set.
Yeah, I got.
They're not yet.
Where'd you get your dental work?
I haven't been to the dentist in probably 4 years.
Really? Why not?
My teeth are probably rotting out as we speak, because I can't afford it. Don't have dental insurance. Hey.
Well, you know, in North Korea they get free dental care.
Oh, take me over.
Yeah.
Me and Kim Jong-un will get a root canal together.
They attach a little microchip to one of the teeth, but they'll fix it for you.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Surveillance state.
Yeah. Well,
we're here in our willing.
Well, this is how the debate began. Was talking about authoritarian governments. And I just like to point out when authoritarians do something right, because I think in times, not totally objectively, it's not moral to be authoritarian, but do they serve their purpose? That's the question. Do you think they serve their purpose?
Well, what's the purpose?
Because
I don't
to move an entire nation forward.
With what their purpose is, so I can't agree with it because I'm morally opposed to their purpose originally. Well,
is there hypothetically a country that you believed in, where you thought the direction it's going, the plans that all the people have, where they want to build an empire or build an industry that creates something and switches over. Like, just say New Zealand.
I've never heard of one.
Yeah. Well, if New Zealand wanted to convert everything to solar energy, and that was the big thing, and everybody, but they had to do it authoritarian style, where they're like, no, and if anybody doesn't do solar panels, we're going to execute you in the town square.
You can't do it.
Why?
You can't do it. Because no matter if this stubborn son of a bitch, it's still their life is at stake.
Well, let's say that the people have been brainwashed by the last regime who came in, who was all about gas-powered cars and said, don't be taken back by these solar people. They're full of shit and everything. But we know that solar panels are better for the environment, maybe save the world, blah, blah. Hypothetical here. Would you allow that to happen in an authoritarian way? If the people were misled, and if you let them have democracy, they would make the wrong decision because they had been brainwashed.
Then it's going to take a long time of healing with education, and you're going to have to invest in other things in order to make them see that this is the correct decision.
Yeah. Well, every world leader has opposed what you just said, which is like not every, but tons of them go against like the idea of giving out education as a way to strengthen the nation. Like Ronald Reagan, I think it was Reagan, had the opportunity to, or Nixon, I forget. One of them had a ally or in his cabinet said, hey, should we give them free education? No. You're just going to have an educated proletariat on your hands. They're going to try to overthrow the government. You want to give out less education.
Absolutely. That's what they're, because they don't want people to be smart. They don't want people to think for themselves.
Yeah.
And of course, that's how they control everything in the first place.
Yeah. But let's say that there was a necessity for authoritarianism. Like, how else do you get an entire nation on board with one idea to move forward? Because there are issues with liberalism.
You have to be able to prove that idea without authoritarianism. It's the only way to prove something to anyone in the first place.
Yeah.
You can't prove, it doesn't mean you prove it to them if you drill it into their brain. But they have to discover it.
But it's just not.
Like love.
Like, do you think you're talking about some kind of state-sponsored ability to...
State. Now that would be a good one.
Or like, how would you bring about love? How can you, Charlie, how do you get love into the hearts of the masses?
And this is what I'm trying to figure out. How can you teach empathy? How can you show on a gigantic broad scale that kindness leads to positive outcomes?
Well, I think one of my one of my common remedies I bring up with people I meet is give billionaires a heroic dose of LSD and push them into a forest and let them find their way out. That could do it. But it doesn't always work because I talked to Douglas Rushkoff. He said, yeah, these billionaire tech bros, they already take a bunch of psychedelics, and that doesn't really stop them from exploiting people.
Yeah, they think that they've found the other level, but they haven't stopped to think about, there's other people other than me.
Yeah.
And my tech bros.
Modern day tech bros really think that they're descended from the pharaohs in Egypt. I've heard chatter among these people. That's what they say. That's not good.
Straight from the
that don't sound
that's
good.
Terrifying.
Well, we need we need a revolution, Charlie. We need to grab.
That's exactly.
But you know what? The power is not going to let go just willingly. It's going to, every time that there's been a massive political shift, we've had to, somebody had to pay the price. I'm not going to sit here and start talking about who to guillotine, but
you're right. And that's I mean, that's something that we have to be brave and there's plenty of other people on this planet right now that are dealing with that as we speak, facing the guillotine.
Yeah.
To try win their freedom or simply stay alive.
Yeah. But you know what? So I bounce back and forth between being very liberal or leftist or whatever you'd like to call it. Liberal insinuates capitalism, but really, and then sometimes I go full authoritarian. Like I think eco-fascism actually sounds good. If somebody throws some styrofoam in a fucking lake by a beautiful pond in a stream or whatever, string that dude up. Send him to the firing squad.
Encase him in styrofoam.
Yes, yes.
Forever.
The ultimate revenge.
The cask of Amantillo of styrofoam.
I mean, sounds harsh, and really, I don't think that that's the right way. That's another reactionary thing to do. But at the same time, how fucking stupid and low down do you got to be to trash the fucking environment, man?
You got to be a piece of shit. Last night I was sitting at a bar and someone just threw a McDonald's cup out of their car and it hit me. I'm sitting there at the bar. It's like an outdoor one on the street. And the people next to me are like, what the fuck was that? Just, I'm going to chuck this cup at this guy,
Jesus Christ. That's
Hi.
Time to move, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't believe this shit.
But so... I lost my train of thought now.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I can't stop thinking about it. Styrofoam encasements. No, but this is what I was thinking of. So in our utopia, eco-fascist state, wherever we're living in then, prisons.
Yeah.
Where is there a future of prison? Do we, as you're saying, do you string him up? Do you stick him in prison? How do you deal with?
Well,
I mean, in terms of that.
Well, here's the thing, and this leads back.
I don't think there's styrofoam.
And this is weird because this is going to lead back into the Uyghur. This is going to lead back into the Uyghur Muslim thing, where it's like, hey, they're calling them re-education camps, right? And
yes, the Chinese.
And in Switzerland, in Sweden and stuff, you got prisons that are basically like summer camps with people truly trying to be rehabilitated. They don't even have separate cells; they have separate buildings.
Those are two different things. Because in Sweden, those are actual criminals.
I'm just.
China, these are just people who happen to be Uyghur.
Well, there's a fine look, Charlie. There's a fine line between people who are criminals and people who are dissidents and people who are, don't think that Sweden doesn't lock up some of its radical activists. It does. Whether they're
do they force sterilize?
No, obviously that's worse in there. It's worse in China, of course.
And that's all I'm trying to draw attention to.
Well, but you're asking, how would the prison system be in this utopian future that I've dreamed up, which is...
Oh, there we go. Back to that one then.
Yeah. Like, in that case, so that I'm giving examples of different kinds of... What do I really do with somebody who is a habitual litterer in that case? And that's a question. What do you do? Because, come on. Yeah, it would chop his head off. Sounds fun. It's not the right answer. It's a slippery slope. Pretty soon you're going to be doing political distance, students, academics. You can't go that route. But you got to rehabilitate them somehow. So what do you do? You're the one who says, okay, we got to infect everybody with the love bug. We got to bring back love, people. Right. How do you really go about knowing what we know about the primitive, sort of fickle and violent nature of human beings? How do you really get a full-fledged love pandemic going with everybody infected with the love bug?
You don't. That's the other problem, is that the world is hopeless and terrible.
Yeah. That's about.
But if you try to, okay, say I am government, you can call me Mr. Government. What do you impose? What do you impose that will inflict the love bug on the people? So I think people are more or let's see, is this even true? Are people more prone to happiness if they have everything that they need? Like simple things to stay alive. Their lives are not in danger. They have food and shelter.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's say they
Are
do.
people happy
I
when
think
they have that? No.
well, scientific studies have shown that you got a higher number than if you just let them fucking cannibalize each other in the ghettos. Yeah. And Europe is a stunning model of that, of course. And I feel that living here. But then again, it's like, but there's still this outside influence of like advertising that wants to sell you junk food and candy and Wiener schnitzels day in, day out. So is it even possible?
But that's a choice. And that's a choice that comes after you have the necessities and everything that you need.
Yeah, but and so it'll help you make that choice because maybe you've got the patience to say, I don't really need that. But in reality, you're susceptible to the primitive impulses and the hunger, and you smell that hot dog wind coming down the street. You go, oh God, I gotta go give me one of them hot dogs, even though I know it's not good for me because I'm educated, because I have everything I need, including education that tells me hot dogs are bad for me. So I'll go get a hot dog. That's, I think, how easy it is. It's the availability of an item or a substance or whatever it is that's could be possibly detrimental, like hot dogs or cigarettes or heroin or anything like that. Hot dogs, heroin, equally as bad.
Hot dogs and heroin. I need to write a country song. Hot dogs and heroin.
You know what I mean? Like if you still have like McDonald's on every fucking corner, then even if you live in that sort of European socialist paradise, are we still going to be able to not be violent, criminal, rapist, murderer kind of people? Maybe it gets better. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's better. I don't think you'll ever not have terrible people.
Yeah.
There will always be terrible people out there under any system, which is a bit odd.
Some people from the past to the future, some people from the cradle to the grave. They're just terrible.
This is terrible.
I believe that. I do believe that. It is sad. It is sad. Well, George Carlin, the great George Carlin, puts it perfectly. We're just a failed experiment circling the drain. And everything, if you add up all the things, like some people get narrowly invested into focusing on one ill of society, like, look at what these people are doing here. Prison reform. Oh, we got to reform the prisons. These poor prisoners, look at what they do. They have to work all day. They have corporate contracts to do prison labor. 13th Amendment, they're basically slaves. And that's your specialty. But then I'm interviewing all these people about all these horrible things, and I've just added it all up and said, oh, we're fucking doomed. I got it. Well, that makes, and the greatest thing is because the freedom that it gives you on your own personal individual obligation to be great or to be special, it just fades away. You realize, I don't need to be great or special. I can be perfectly average because that's exactly what I am. Just another maggot, crawling along the Earth's surface, sucking up resources and creating waste. Is that
It's a very doomy, gloomy way to look at life.
But somehow I still have joy. I mean, you have joy, don't you?
Sometimes. Lately, it's been harder.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Lately, it's been a little bit of a rough patch.
Well, look, my dog just died. Things have been pretty terrible. But if you keep your expectations low and you keep the whiskey close to your desk, then you can abide. But life isn't.
That how do we finally just decide to give up?
Yeah.
And is that when it all comes crashing down and then things start anew sure.
Yeah, whether you're talking about humanity or yourself, everybody really frowns on the idea of degrowth or even suicide, which they just legalized suicide in Canada. It's a big deal. If you even try to ask ChatGPT about suicide, they're like, how many people committed suicide in Japan? And they're like, if you need help, call 1-800. Like, no. Like, they don't want to lose any more people. But at the same time, I think if humanity wants to quit, or if an individual human being wants to quit.
Well, that's your personal choice, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
but you generally,
as long as you're not taking everyone out with you, then.
But if I'm extracting value from you right now by talking to you and I'm enjoying it, and I'm like, you're a crutch for me and you're helping me get through my misery in my life, then, and if you were to say, well, I want to kill myself, I'd say, no, don't do that, man, because I need you.
Yeah, of course. Well, and it's caring. I mean, it doesn't have to be so that you need me, but there's a caring.
Yeah.
Right?
It's selfish. It is selfish. That's the thing, is it's a selfish thing. But at the same time, your company does spread value to other human beings. Occasionally, and that's not true for everybody. Some people.
Yeah, some people are straight up tumors on the conversation.
Some people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slobbering all over the place.
Yeah, some people are just output only, and and that's it. But no, I think
deny it.
Well, look, you're yeah. You're a musician, though. You understand the value of spreading joy through music, right? I mean, what attracted you to music?
I know the deep down misery of why I play music in the first place.
Which is what?
That's what attracted me to music, is being able to deal with my feelings and my thoughts of loneliness that I felt like I couldn't express in any other way.
Did it help?
And at times it's been to express happiness. Absolutely. I think it's saved my life.
Yeah. I mean,
it has the music industry now. That's a whole separate part of it.
Yeah.
As you know.
Oh, yeah.
But music just straight up for me, as it was, what drew me to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like therapy almost.
Yeah.
And,
I always thought when I started my thing is like, I thought, I love music because of how it makes me feel when I listen to it. I go to another place. I can time travel. I can go to any period of time. I love all this music. And I want to take part in the rich history of that and tap into whatever that is. But I also want people to like me. I want to be loved, and I want to communicate through this thing. But
I want people to notice. I want them to hear me, right?
Yeah, I want to be understood.
That what I'm saying, it actually is meaningful.
Yeah. And this was sort of like...
I want you to feel it. I feel it.
Yeah. And then validate the fact that, hey, I am here and I have successfully contributed to the music zeitgeist or whatever. And you're like, okay.
Right.
And then you belong somewhere, and then you have a thing, and you can walk around with confidence, which you are always seeking.
So then it's all just being an egotistical, selfish thing.
Sort of. And that's the whole point about, again, human beings only out for their own good. Whether or not your friend's committing suicide or whatever, you're just looking out for yourself. At all turns. Yeah.
Because that's going to make me feel bad if you do that.
Yeah. This is the whole point behind objectivism, which is this stupid philosophy by this stupid woman named Ayn Rand, who wrote a book called The Fountainhead. And
can I just say I hate Ayn Rand's writing so much.
It's bad.
All
too.
of Atlas Shrugged, it just goes on and on for fucking ever. Awful writing.
So
hate her books so much.
Yeah. Somebody said the biggest asshole in literature, for sure. I mean, this is just selfishness, right? And there's truth to it, but she acknowledged it and embraced it. I'm just acknowledging it, and I'm disgusted by it.
Yeah.
She's like, well, we
Same.
should just do whatever we want to do because that's all that really matters. And I just don't hold that same belief. I think
It's not
every living
inside of me.
dude, it's not there's nothing wrong with you, Charlie. Every living creature has evolved in some kind of communal sort of form. Most things. Some things go off on their own. I mean, spiders, they go off on their own or whatever. I've never seen spiders fuck exactly, but
They're still attacking moths and doing their thing.
yeah. But
Some kind of that functions with others.
yeah, but still, like humans evolved to be with each other, as a tribe, to rely on each other for strength, and all pack animals. I mean, you name it. I mean, fish swim in schools, birds fly in flocks.
We need interaction. We need
support.
We need others.
We need support. We need a team to survive. It was us. It was big groups of us with spears chasing big beasts off a cliff because we were stronger in numbers, and that's what gave us that advantage. And then all of a sudden,
maybe that's what we're missing in our government. Are we not giving enough human support? Like, I mean, it's a very basic way to say it. But for instance, you can take it back. Mental health. Of course, most people that are dealing with mental health stuff do not have the support that they need.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one example right there.
And what happens to people that don't have their mental health support?
Well, a lot of different things. Some of them go off and shoot up a Ralph's. Some of them go off and make a weird psychedelic album. Mental health has a lot of different avenues.
Yeah. I think it's not always detrimental, but still, I would say a lot of them get pushed into positions where they can't be the best humans that they possibly can be, right? You end up committing crimes, or you keep doing drugs, or living on the street, or just having conditions that are just not favorable to producing anything of a value. And if you want people to be valuable members of society, the smart thing is to reinvigorate social safety nets for mental health people. I mean, whether or not you're crazy or if you're mentally handicapped and you really can't just provide anything of service, you should be taken care of. There is a place in Germany where I live next to. It was a little mentally handicapped people's house. And every day they would come out in their little wheelchairs and they'd be all excited. And I would always have my dog, and I'd walk down the same thing, and we'd just meet every day. And I had all my friends there, and they were always happy to see me. Where they'd see my dog coming, and they'd go, yay! And they'd have, in their wheelchairs, they'd come up with their little dog treats. And they bought dog treats. Oh, it was just adorable. And I was blown away about how well they get treated compared to some of the institutions in America, and that we really just turn people loose like that on the street. My mom
where that they don't give value. So why
would we, in the capitalist system, no monetary value?
Yeah.
My mom told me one time when this is in America now, when she was working at a place, at a fast food restaurant, a guy in a wheelchair came in, couldn't walk, had debilitating terminal diseases, was completely dysfunctional. His parents kicked him out of the house, and he was supposed to go out and find employment and stuff. And he was just didn't have a social safety net, was totally, and then was forced. I'm talking about fully paralyzed. He would have a hard time working, and people like that should just be flat covered. I mean,
go get a construction job, right?
They can work if they want to for fun, but really nobody should expect anything from them, and they should just live a happy life on our dime, no questions asked. That's just me. I guess I'm old-fashioned.
But that's so where do you get the money for it then? You gonna be raising taxes? I can already hear it's like a slogan already.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm not even gonna say it.
All these wheelchair people's coming for my money.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the sad truth is, well, look, if we tax billionaires at, look,
And it's
we,
and that's all. We have the money. It's just not directed
yeah, if
to
we,
those things.
in 1960, we taxed billionaires at, I think it was 90%. 90% we taxed billionaires in 1960. Now, there weren't a lot of billionaires in that time because it was only for billionaires, but even millionaires, I think, got taxed 50, 60%. Now, that's the current tax rate for billionaires in the Europe. They still find their tax havens or whatever, but
Cool.
this sensible tax thing makes it so when I walk down the street, I'm not talking to meth heads and weirdos and home bums and, you know, just America's full of ridiculous people, man. And it's not their fault.
That's right.
It's not their fault.
They come up in a very fucked up type of place.
When you leave high school, you can work at Walmart, or you can, for most of America, this is what it's like, especially middle America. You can work at Walmart, or you can join the military. And then if you're,
Well, and what I've hated
if you're,
too is that it's just your entry level, so you don't deserve to get paid as much.
yeah,
And it's all this myth of just, oh, well, you're not qualified for this, so you don't deserve to make money
yeah,
because I haven't been doing it for 30 years. That's why.
yeah.
It all needs to change.
And so the education system, they don't want to teach us to do anything, right? They want us to pay an arm and a leg to go and either be captains of industry or have a, sociology degree and not you do anything with it and just pay fucking student debt. But in reality,
And I think it was a senator who was like, or we can't do that. We won't have any boys to join the army anymore.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What was his quote? I forget what he said.
Letting people giving people education, that's the opposite of what we need. And you know what the big thing is too? It's like we've moved. So about the time that they moved all the industry out of America, Detroit moved to Mexico, and moved to Bangladesh is making our this and that. Haiti's making our T-shirts. Japan was doing our electronics. China's now doing all of our tech.
And our clothes, a lot of
we deindustrialized our own country and we sent all that stuff abroad. So now the jobs that are left for us to do are service industry gig worker jobs where we're sitting here serving corporate Kentucky Fried Chicken that's been flown in from the headquarters, super distribution center. It's been frozen for 3 years. They bring it in, Applebee's, man, you go in there and in the back, the chef has a pair of scissors and he's cutting open plastic bags and putting the,
Isn't that how Olive Garden too is? I mean, a lot of them are that way.
That's it. And so it's it's this hollow
homemade soup. Straight from this bag.
Even people that are in any industry, they're basically like Uber drivers. So everything is like an Uber driver, whether you work at a restaurant or whatever. It's all meaningless server positions. You're not making anything any more value. You're just sort of shuffling shit around.
Why do you want to, let me give all this, let me try to sell this stuff for these people and do all this stuff when it's not going to make a goddamn difference how much I make, is it? Yeah, maybe I'll get a tip here and there.
They keep, and wages are just kept just at enough to where they keep us not revolting. And that's the trick. As long as we don't start revolting, then everything's good. And if we say something, they go, "Oh yeah, okay. Well, we'll up the minimum wage as soon as enough people get mad." But people aren't getting mad. People would rather take fentanyl and just say "fuck life," and I'll just doze out on this corner rather than compete in this late stage capitalist world. Which I don't even blame drug addicts for taking that route, or
not at all.
People that resort to crime. You're like, well, I guess I'm just gonna go, steals. I'm gonna go loot the Walgreens with all my friends. We'll do a flash mob and we'll resell all the stuff. What like I care. Like right-wing people always on the internet want to show you these videos and say, look at what the minorities are doing, and look, we need more police. I'm like, dude, fuck Walgreens, man. Fuck Walgreens. Good for them.
Does it have any effect on Walgreens themselves, the corporation? How much did they lose from that?
How much, let's look this up. How much did the CEO of Walgreens make last year? I bet you he probably did all right. Dude, oh my God, that was more than I thought. So how much
did the cost of sending the police to that site cost more than all of the things taken combined?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, check this out. Take a guess. How much do you think the CEO of Walgreens made last year? Everybody take a guess.
Oh, geez. 15 billion. Who knows?
15 billion?
Just some exorbitant number.
So 28 million.
That's all?
In a year. I mean, that's hefty. That's it.
Jeez, that's it?
Charlie, I make more of that.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Heck it. Pocket change.
This includes salary of 28 million and a salary of about 700,000 stock and other forms of compensation.
And how much does a cashier at Walgreens make?
Yeah, good question.
Minimum wage, I assure you. In whichever state you happen to be in.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the average in the USA right now. How much does the average cashier make? $14 an hour. Annual salary of $34,000 a year.
So how long would that take to make 28 million?
Oh, you're going to make me do all that. Well, as you can imagine, more than a lifetime. More than a lifetime, right.
Yeah, you're not going to get there.
Yeah. And typically it's the jobs that are the hardest, that nobody wants to do, that actually entail physical labor or strenuous brain power, that aren't really paid good at all. Things that are important. Ambulance people, even doctors could stand to be paid 28 million a year.
Food pickers.
What?
There's a big one. Food pickers.
Food pickers. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. People that actually do the thing that we need to survive, which is food.
That harvest our entire food that keeps us alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice if they got paid well. People that
wake up at before dawn.
People that clean public toilets.
Yeah. The guy that has to go clean the jizz in the little jerk off boots, that guy should get a raise.
Hey, him. I was that guy.
You really?
I did.
You were the mop.
I was the jizz mopper. I actually worked at a place called the No-Tell Motel. This is a true story. And it was a rundown, methed out drug, hotel where there was basically a brothel run out of it. And it had hot tubs in the room. So it was like a kickback of a 70s sort of thing. Meth heads would constantly come in and cut the electrical cords off of all the appliances because they thought they were cameras probably. The owner was this terribly grotesque Jabba the Hutt style character who would breathe heavily and stuff, and took a shining to me, let me work there for a brief stint. And
you became his page.
Yeah. The hotel was like a regular hotel lobby. You'd go through it and everything, and at the front desk where you'd check in and everything, there's a whole rack of dildos and porno magazines. And this was not typical of the area that I grew up. This was a weird little place that I had discovered in Denver. But yeah. I ended up
motel.
I ended up quitting when I found out I got lice.
Gross. That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
See, that guy who's doing it now, that guy needs a raise.
Pay that guy. Yeah. So these kind of jobs really deserve to be higher paid, and people that are making business decisions where they delegate responsibility to other people and have gone to an Ivy League university, and that's what makes them that they feel like they have some kind of upper hand on people because it's what they call the glass. You've heard of the glass ceiling, where poor people can't get past the executive part because there's a little glass ceiling. Well, they have a glass floor where if you go to Ivy League University, you would never really drop below that floor. You always stay at least above all the pathetic poor people like me.
Where we're all looking up there.
Yeah.
Yep. With the soles of their shoes.
Yeah. What are you going to do? We're going to solve the world's problems here soon one day, Charlie, I tell you.
We're working on it.
Well, I'll tell you what, come back next week, we'll do it again, and we'll come up with some topics for everybody watching. This was just the first talk of maybe many with my friend Charlie. Charlie is a great mind. What?
I would love that. I would love to come back.
Well, I think everybody would like to have you. What do you think, folks? Would you like to have him back? I've heard them. They say, wait, I think I can do it.
Empathy, more like pathetic.
Well, what topics?
They love me.
What topics do you want to cover next week, Charlie?
Something about sewage systems?
We can cover sewage systems.
Public sewage. That'd be interesting. That would actually be very interesting.
There we go. I got my oog on. There we go.
I see things popping up. Ooh. Now, what would be a good topic for next week?
I'm big into the politics. We should cover the election that's coming up. I want to cover sort of what's going on there. I'll write some articles throughout the week, and then if you just check the articles, and then I'm sure you'd have an opinion. You're a smart guy. You come up with some points that you'd like to make, or if you bring something to the table that I haven't thought about, we'd love to talk. But let's go deep. Let's go deep. Let's go universal. Something geopolitics, philosophy, humanity, climate change. I'll debate you. I'll debate you again on the veganism thing because I think you should go vegan right away.
Keep it coming, boy. Keep it coming.
It's a no-brainer. Good for the animals, good for the environment, good for your health.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm going to eat vegan tonight. So
I like your style.
There's one day.
Beans, rice, you get yourself some quinoa, some avocado, some hot sauce, oh, I'm hungry.
Watch, I'm going to be cooking that up all nice. My girlfriend's going to come home and drop like ham or something directly on it.
You got Charlie, you got to put some ham in it.
I'm so glad she doesn't sound like that.
Charlie, I got to put some ham in
For some
there.
reason, she's like a ghoul from Brooklyn. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't know you married a South Park character. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm missing a hair. All right, that's where I have to sign out.
All right. Charlie Musser, thanks for coming. We're going to see you next week, and we'll sign off. We're going to talk after this. Say goodbye to everybody at home. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having me.